All right, hello everyone and welcome. I have the Behmor 1600 Plus and the Freshroast SR800 here. And if you have been wondering how these two machines compare, this video is for you. All right, hello everyone and welcome. My name is John, and over 5 years ago, I decided to stop purchasing roasted coffee. I've been roasting all my own coffee for over 5 years now. So I've got a lot of use out of the Behmor and the Freshroast, and I wanted to do this video to highlight what I see as the key differences so that you can make the best decision that's right for you. Now, it's not a super straightforward comparison. I can't tell you which one is obviously better than the other because they both have a lot of unique strengths and weaknesses. So I want to walk you through all of those, and then I will give you my final thoughts at the end. Now you'll notice that I have this 12-inch extended chamber here for the Freshroast, which is an excellent upgrade for this machine and unlocks a lot more of its potential. But all of the points that I'm going to cover in this video will apply equally to the stock chamber as well. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the power of these roasters. So both of these machines are weak, all right? They're both lacking in power. Both of them do a fine job of roasting coffee, but what I mean by lacking power is that you're gonna figure out a roast profile that works and you're pretty much gonna be stuck with it. They don't have enough power for you to really ramp things up and dial things back and do a lot of fine tuning. You pretty much have to run both of these machines on full power all the time. Now, real quick, I just gotta sneak this in here. This little device changed so much of my opinions about these machines. So this is a line voltage meter. As I'm roasting, it tells me how much voltage is actually making it through that outlet into the machine. And I had no idea that various outlets could supply a lot more or less voltage than others. So for years, I thought the Behmor was just so weak. I much preferred the Freshroast. Then I found out I was just using a really weak outlet. So once I started using both of these in an outlet that was actually supplying around 120 volts, this Behmor became a much more capable machine, and now I'm really enjoying this a lot. So before we went any further, I just want to make sure you know this is a game changer. Okay, so let's talk about roast evenness. This is a drum roaster. This is a fluid bed roaster, so hot air. The Behmor roasts more evenly. Just straight up, I'm gonna give the win to the Behmor here. You can roast evenly with the Freshroast, and you'll have to play with fan speeds and batch sizes, and with different beans, it'll be more or less difficult. But you can roast quite evenly here, but this one is always totally even. And when I'm making coffee, I don't notice a difference if this one isn't perfectly even. And especially because I roast a lot of natural processed coffees, which have more variability. The Behmor roasts evenly all the time, and it makes a big difference to me when I'm pulling shots of espresso. So you wanna get that even extraction through the entire puck. And I will say that I definitely get more consistent results in that regard from the Behmor. Okay, so let's talk about ease of use. I will say straight up that the Freshroast is much easier to use. You only have settings for heat up and down and fan speed up and down. The Behmor has all kinds of buttons on there, and the buttons have multiple uses, so none of them are actually labeled. You have buttons A through D and P1 through P5, and depending on what the machine is doing and when you're pressing them, they're going to have different effects. So you have to just memorize all of that, and sometimes I won't use this for like 6 months and I'll go back and it'll take a minute to really figure out how to use it again. So I will say I'm not a fan of multi-use buttons that have no labeling for what they actually do. I much prefer this: heat up or down, fan speed up or down. Okay, so let's talk about batch size. So the Behmor will roast up to a pound, although not really. The Freshroast will roast half a pound, although it could roast 12 ounces with this extended chamber, but you will sacrifice some evenness because just that amount of beans, it's not gonna circulate as well as it will if you're doing half a pound. The reason I say the Behmor is not really a full pound roaster is because it takes forever. It could take like 18 to 20 minutes for that roast to finish, not counting the cool down. And for me, anything beyond like 14, 15 minutes, it's just too long. the beans start to take on that baked flavor, it's not as good. So for me, the sweet spot in this machine is to do about 300 grams so that I'm getting a larger batch size. I don't have to roast as often, but it's not really starting to lose quality like I would if I'm doing a 20-minute roast for 1 pound. Now keep in mind, we also have to talk about roast time. So the average for the Behmor is going to be like 13 to 18 minutes, depending on the type of beans and the amount you're using. Average for the Freshroast is going to be like 6 to 9 minutes, depending on those same factors. So while you can do a larger batch in the Behmor, you could probably, a lot of the time, fire off 2 batches back to back in about roughly the same time frame. So now let's talk about cooling. Both of these machines have built-in cooling cycles, and the one on the Freshroast works very well, and the one on the Behmor does not work at all, and you shouldn't even try to use it. So the Freshroast will go into a 3-minute, it automatically goes into a 3-minute cooling cycle where it's just blowing cool air up and out, and it cools the beans very effectively. The Behmor will go into, and I don't even remember because I don't do it. I think it's a 13-minute cooling cycle, which is absurdly long. The beans are going to be coasting for a large portion of that, which means that you try to stop the roast, but they have enough heat built up that they're gonna continue on for quite a bit longer. So under no circumstance are you to use the cooling cycle of the Behmor. You have to actually turn the machine off, open it, pull the beans out, and then I usually just grab the drum with gloves on and I just shake it, move it back and forth, move it all around for a couple of minutes before transferring the beans to a colander. All right, which leads me to the next point, which is messiness. So the Freshroast doesn't make a mess at all, not even a little bit. The Behmor is gonna make a huge mess because when you open that door, you're gonna knock some of the chaff out, and then as you're shaking this drum around to cool it off, you're gonna be getting more chaff everywhere as well. Now you might think you don't need to do that, you could just use this ultra long cooling cycle, which is fine, but if you will do any research into coffee roasting, professional roasters will tell you you should be trying to cool your beans in 4 minutes or less down to room temperature. So the 13 minutes or whatever it is it's just unacceptable. So I wouldn't recommend doing it manually every time. Now then, how about roasting indoors? So in my previous home, we had very sensitive smoke detectors. I could not roast indoors with either of these. So I was roasting out on the balcony, which is fine. In my current home, I'm roasting in the garage, works great. I've never been in a home that has a very strong modern exhaust fan above the stove. So some of you might be able to get away with roasting, having these on the stove with your fan on the highest speed. For me, that's never been possible, especially because I am needing to open the Behmor to cool the beans, which is again making a huge mess indoors. So I would just go to the garage or balcony or wherever if possible. Okay, so let's talk about visibility. So visibility is an important part of the roasting process, being able to see the beans going through those stages. And it's a very fun part of the process. So hands down, Freshroast wins here, no contest. The visibility is excellent. You will see all of the beans from start to finish. The Behmor here, visibility is pretty poor. You've got a small glass viewing window, and during the daytime, there's always a lot of glare on that glass. So it's pretty hard to look through there and actually see the beans. I much prefer roasting with this thing at night because there is a light inside here that you can turn on. That will give you a much better view than you'll get in the daytime with any glare. But even still, it's not even close to the visibility of the Freshroast. So the other point about visibility has to do with the displays on both of these. So they both use these very weak displays. I don't know if it's LED, I have no idea, but they're both very hard to read in the daylight. And the one on the Freshroast, to my eyes, is a little bit easier to read, but you have to put your hand over it to create some shade. So for a long time, I always preferred to roast at night so that I could really see what's going on. And that might not sound like a big deal, but the Behmor has this auto off function. So people call this the nanny feature. About 75% of the way through the roast, the Behmor will start flashing this warning on the screen that it's going to shut off automatically in 30 seconds unless you press the start button. But it doesn't beep, so there's no warning to this. And if you're looking through the window trying to watch the roast, you might not see this at all because in the daytime, it's very hard to see. And so I have messed up some roasts in that regard because I didn't press it in time. And then the machine actually won't allow you to initiate a new roast for quite some time. It's gonna go through this auto cool cycle that it's programmed to do. Although you can unplug it and replug it in very quickly and start the roast again, but you will have lost some momentum and it's definitely not gonna be the quality you're hoping for. So that's another reason why roasting at night is nice with the Behmor especially. You can see inside and you can see that display more easily. All right, so let's wrap it up. I wanna give you my final thoughts. It's actually been a couple weeks since I filmed this whole video and I've roasted all the rest of my green beans since then. And I thought a lot about what I wanna say to help guide you through this decision. And yeah, so the first thing is that both of these are fine. You're gonna be having delicious fresh roasted coffee. It's a lot of fun to be able to change things to your liking. But I will say that the fresh roast is easier to use, it's more fun, and I enjoy the flavors I get from that over the Behmor. Now, what you need to know about me is that I like to roast everything light or medium. For me, the second crack is the sound of failure. It really is. I don't ever want anything roasted that much. So I much prefer the brighter, more colorful type of flavors I'm getting from the fresh roast. Now the Behmor does roast more evenly, so I am able to pull more consistent shots of espresso with that. So if you're primarily espresso focused, this one would definitely be worth a look. And if you're someone who enjoys darker roasts, this is a great machine to be getting your beans into that territory, because the real downsides to this is that the roasts can take a long time and they start to get that kind of roasty edge to them. And personally, that's not what I'm going for. So a lot of you out there may actually really prefer that, but I tend to like things on the fruity, florally side of the spectrum. So this is my preference over here. Now keep in mind, you do need to get the extended chamber for this to be an even match. I would say the Behmor wins out over the stock chamber for sure. So yeah, if you want brighter, more lively coffee, this is the one. If you want darker coffee, larger batch size, more of that roasty kind of flavor, this will be the good choice for you. So please let me know what you think. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know if you have any questions. I would love to help out if there's any lingering things you're wondering about. And if you'd like to see a machine where I take you through the entire roasting process on both of these machines, you can check out this one here. And for those of you who want to learn about coffee roasting and learn some key concepts that will help you on any roaster you're gonna use, you can check out this video here as well. So that is gonna do it. I gotta go put these all away, get ready for my move, and then I gotta start ordering some green coffee to my new address, so that'll be a ton of fun. So it will sadly be a couple weeks before I can fire these up again, but I'll get it going again soon, and I will see you all then. So thank you so much for watching. I wish you all the best on your journey to that perfect cup of coffee, and I hope to see you back here again for another video real soon. Peace.